afternoon or good morning, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Games Prep Week. Thank you for joining us for this 3-day information series that's designed especially for stock market game advisors. So my name is Sarah Bryant, and I have the pleasure of working with a number of you in Florida, Colorado, and the New York area. So over the course of this week, you'll gain a deeper understanding of the different asset classes that are available within the stock market game. Stocks and exchange traded funds, also known as ETFs, mutual funds, and bonds. And I'm grateful to share that each session will be joined by a financial professional from Edward Jones, who will walk us through those fundamentals and share insights. And then I will help you connect those concepts to how your students will experience them within the stock market game platform. So our goal today is twofold. It's first, to make sure that you feel confident navigating these financial instruments yourself. And second, to equip you with the tools and strategies to better engage with students, whether in the classroom, after school, or in enrichment programs. So by the end of prep week, you'll not only have a stronger grasp of the investment landscape, but also a clear vision of how to implement the stock market game with your students in a way that is both meaningful and impactful. So thank you again for being here and for the important role that you play in bringing financial literacy to life for young people. So let's get started. So we want to always set the tone about why financial literacy matters to us. So financial literacy is a life skill. Students need it just as much as reading and math, yet only 30% of adults in the US say that they are confident in their financial knowledge. And youth in underserved communities often lack access to personal finance education at home or in school, which only widens the economic opportunity gap. And students who receive financial education are more likely to save, budget, and invest. They have higher credit scores and lower debt delinquency as young adults. And according to the Council for Economic Education, as of 2024, only 25 states required a personal finance course for high school graduation. And many students are still graduating without an understanding of interest, credit, or investing. So financial education has academic benefits too. So students who participate in programs like the stock market game have shown improved performance in math and economics, and we believe that early exposure builds confidence, encourages informed decision-making, and promotes economic mobility. So the consequences of lower financial capability can be greater financial hardship and difficulty in financial planning, as exhibited by some of the alarming statistics that we see regarding around women, for underserved populations. We have some on Gen Z, and those that are nearing or at retirement age. And essentially, that's all of us at some point. But we hope to help in bridging that gap and believe that your role in bringing the stock market game to your students is instrumental to this work. So I'd like to take a moment, of course, to reintroduce the SIPMA Foundation, or to reintroduce to some of you, or introduce for the first time for others. So at the SIPMA Foundation, we're essentially a nonprofit organization, and we've been dedicated to advancing youth financial education since 1977. So our mission is simple but powerful, and that's to give every student the tools to build a strong financial future. We're especially proud of our focus on reaching students from underserved communities, ensuring that financial knowledge is accessible to all, not just a few. And since our founding, we are so proud that we've been able to reach more than 23 million students nationwide, and we continue to expand that impact each year. And at the heart of it all, our goal is to inspire confidence, spark curiosity, and prepare young people to make more informed decisions about money throughout their lives. But what makes our work unique is the partnership between the financial industry and educators. Because together we've created programs that are both practical and tied to the real world skills we all need to make informed financial decisions. And one such partner is our guest today, coming from Edward Jones. So joining us today is Kim Siegel, a financial advisor, part of Edward Jones's wealth management team. She began her career in the securities industry over 25 years ago after graduating from the University of Illinois. And I'm really happy to have her here with us today. So thanks so much, Kim. How are you?
Hi, thanks, Sarah, and I appreciate that introduction. I became a financial advisor because I have a passion for investing and helping people meet their financial goals. And that's a big reason why I came here to present today to help people like you all become educated investors who can help their students with this game. How impressive that you guys have reached 23 million students and educators over that time. So thank you for letting me help and assist. And if we can go to the first slide, I will get started. So throughout my experience as a financial advisor, I've worked with many investors who've been investing and they have varied goals. Our seminar today is designed to help you become more educated about stocks and ETFs, but we're also going to give an overview of that process. So as each individual's investor's goal is unique, the process we use to help them is the same, and it's described by this circle. So first, we're going to figure out what's really important to each individual investor. Only then can we work through our established process and build personalized strategies and specific actions that are going to help them reach their financial goals. Then the important part is to continue partnering with them over time, review those, and making sure everything is set toward their goals. This seminar is going to help provide you information on the strategy behind setting those goals, and then also an introduction to stocks and ETFs. So if we could go to the next slide, Sarah, the guiding principle here is why. And that's a great place to start. It's the place for every investor to start. Why do you want to invest? The answer to that question is going to be unique to each student, but it's the foundation of how we build the strategy to how. The answer to why is going to give us this, the bones of our strategy. So I'm going to go over those 5 steps, but we're going to develop a strategy, stick with quality, diversify, invest for the long term, and focus on what we can control. If you go to the next slide, Sarah, we're going to start with rule number 1, which is developing that strategy. So your investment strategy should really be determined by your long-term goals, investing time frame, and risk tolerance. Now, in this stock market game, they won't have their entire lifetime, but it's important to think about our strategy and our goal because it can be very difficult to be focused on those long-term goals when the market declines, or you might find it hard to say no to a hot new investment. As you make your decisions, your strategy will help you stay focused on the long term, making it easier for you to stay on track to achieve those goals. Sarah, if we could go to the next slide, rule number 2 talks about quality. Now, when it comes to quality, when we're talking about stocks, we narrow that field by identifying companies that we believe have sustainable competitive advantage, experienced management teams, and strong financial positions. In our experience, investment success depends on buying and holding quality investments in a well-diversified portfolio and maintaining a long-term perspective. If we could go to rule number 3 and the next slide and talk about diversifying. No single investment is going to perform well under all conditions. If a large portion of your portfolio is concentrated in one type or one investment and bad news causes its value to drop unexpectedly, your long-term financial security may be in jeopardy. There are several layers to diversification. One is asset allocation, which means dividing your money among different asset classes, such as stocks, bonds, and cash. In fact, allocating your investments appropriately is the single best step you can take to improve your investment return potentials. A major study of the factors that determined the financial returns showed that financial returns showed that over 90% of the variability of returns is determined by how you can allocate your investments. This means the difference in your returns from year to year is largely related to your asset allocation. As a result, this asset allocation has a much bigger impact on your investment success than trying to time the market or buying or selling stocks when you think they're nearing lows or highs. If you could go to the next slide, Sarah, we want to talk about investing for the long term. So that's in real life situations, your strategy needs to provide for you and your family's goals today, as well as goals maybe 25 years from now. Things change from year to year, so it's important that you make regular reviews of your investments to make sure that they are still keeping up with your goals. If we could go to the next slide, a little bit more about the long term. You may need to rebalance or make some minor changes that are going to take advantage of opportunities, but it's unlikely that you're going to need to rework everything in response to market changes. The best allocation policy in the world won't matter if you don't stay invested. A great way to take advantage of time in the market, though, is systematic investing. Although systematic investing is not going to guarantee a profit or protects against losses in a declining market, it does allow investors to buy more shares when the price is low and fewer shares when the price is high. This typically results in a lower average cost per share than if a constant number of shares are being purchased at set intervals. These charts demonstrate how you could potentially decrease the average price paid for shares purchased over time rather than a lump sum investment. If we could go to the next slide, Rule 5 is important in life and in the stock market game, and that is focus on what you can control. We're going to go ahead and jump to the next slide because this really spells it out. We can't control the economy, but we can control our savings and spending habits so that we're prepared for that rainy day. While it's not the most attractive word in the world, budgeting can highlight where you're spending and ways to save and increase those savings. You can't control the stock market, but you can control the way you respond when the market drops. If you've invested in quality stocks and allocated your assets, you might not need to take any action when the market drops. Although we can't predict the future, historically, the market has rebounded. And you may want to use those low prices as an opportunity to buy. So if we could go to the next slide, we're actually going to get into the what is a stock. A stock is a fractional ownership of the company. When you buy a stock, you become a part owner in that company along with the other shareholders. When a privately held company needs money for expansion or maybe its day-to-day operations, it has several options. It could borrow the money, but that involves taking on debt and then paying it back with interest. Or it can issue shares of stock on an exchange or in private markets. By selling the stock, the company gets the funding it needs. And by buying the stock, the shareholder may get a say in how the company runs and own a piece of all of its future cash flows on the business. Now, we make money from stocks by capital gains or dividends. Capital gains are the profits you make from price appreciation. Ideally, your stock will go up in value when you own it, allowing you to sell it for more than you paid. Some companies will pay out dividends. A dividend is a share of the company's profits. Essentially, a company sets up a portion of its cash flow and divides it amongst its shareholders. Companies are not required to pay dividends, and even if a company has paid a dividend in the past, there's no guarantee that it'll keep doing so. So if you could go to the next slide, how do they work? Stocks are bought and sold on the stock exchange, such as the New York Stock Exchange, and in private market, where individuals and institutional investors can negotiate purchases and sales of company ownership. The stock market includes these stock exchanges and marketplaces where other investments are traded. When demand for a company's stock is high, but the number of available shares are low, the price goes up. When stockholders sell off a lot of the shares, the exchange may be flooded with more supply than demand, and that causes the price to fall. In the long run, however, the performance of a company's shares relates to the individual performance of the company. If the company can grow its sales and bottom line, the stock price will typically rise. Several things can fuel demand: what's happening in the company, what's happening in the world, and economic conditions. We could go to the next slide, exchange traded funds. Exchange traded fund is a basket of stocks. So it's an investment fund where investors can pool their money together and invest in a pre-selected basket of securities that are traded as a package on the stock exchange. ETFs offer investors a way to combine their money and invest as a group. They're bought and sold throughout the day on that organized market like a stock exchange. That means they're easy to track because investors can look up the ticker and see the price changing throughout the day. And since they're on an exchange, the price changes continuously throughout the day. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is going to give our comparison. So in the stocks, we're buying just an individual company. In an exchange traded fund or an ETF, we're going to buy a number of companies. When it comes to our risk and diversification, the risk is higher owning individual stocks because your risk is more concentrated in that company versus spread out among a lot of companies. So therefore, your diversification is built in that exchange traded fund. And then if we could go to the next slide. When it comes to diversification and building a portfolio, we talked about that as one of our main rules. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. You could have maybe a couple stocks that you really like, and then an exchange traded fund to balance things out and keep things diversified. A strategy like that can help reduce risk across the portfolio. And if you could go to the next slide, I want to talk about our common mistakes to avoid trading too often. So trading stocks through an online platform can feel like a game, and this is a game, but we want it to feel real. And when it feels like a game, it's so easy that new investors often fall into the trap of trading daily. Remember, you're going to generate the best returns from stocks over the long term. When you buy and sell frequently, your profits can get eaten up by taxes, fees, and commissions. Emotional investment decisions should be made in the context of your goals, not in the context of an exciting day on Wall Street. Every day we see stocks soar when emotional investors get excited, and we see them plummet when those same investors panic. Success comes from keeping a cool head in hot moments. And then the short-term thinking. So maybe you've heard about some stock whiz kid who made millions overnight. And while it's possible to buy low price stock and quickly sell it at a profit, it doesn't happen often. We think the market is generally efficient and correctly prices stocks as new information about a company comes to light. Therefore, a long-term outlook and holding stocks for a long period of time is generally a better strategy to generate those returns than day trading in our view. So Sarah, if you can go to my last slide, I want to summarize here our main rules when it comes to building that portfolio is develop a strategy based on the individual why, stick with quality, keep things diversified, invest for the long term, and remember to focus on what you control. Before we move on to Sarah, I'm going to pass things back over. Are there any questions specific about this that need to be addressed?
I had one that came through that someone asked, what are some things that you would consider as a quality investment? So I guess what would be those things, those parameters when someone's looking at a company with their students, what are some things that they should consider?
Yeah, what makes something quality? How do you
Right.
decide that it's quality? So Our analysts are looking at all of the specifics of a company. I mentioned that, like, you're going to want to look at the company leadership. You're going to want to be comfortable with the balance sheet of a company. Now, those things can be complicated for, young investors in the stock market games, but you want to think about companies that are are reliable and around, that maybe you purchase things through. It's hard to define quality outside of the specific maybe investment parameters, mm, like their corporate earnings.
Right. Yeah, understandable. And what's so great, and we'll actually get into some of that within the stock market game of how to understand some of these statements that are involved and people will encounter quarterly earnings, what that means, and certain other balance sheets. We actually break those down with a number of our resources. So it's completely understandable to uh, not be able to explain them offhand. But what's so great is that we do explain them in a number of our videos, not only for our teachers and facilitators to be able to use, but also for students as well. So thanks so much for that, Kim. Any other questions? We're going to open it up. If there are additional questions, you can feel free to pose into the chat, whether to myself directly, but I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity. Thank you so much, Kim, and for all of those questions. A huge thank you to you and Ed Jones for sharing your valuable insights. And if we don't have any other questions, I'll use this opportunity to pivot, because now that we've built a stronger understanding of how these concepts work in the real world, let's shift gears and talk about how you can bring this knowledge to life with your students. Specifically, we'll look at how to use what you've just learned as a foundation for introducing students to buying stocks through the stock market game. Of course, we will leave some time for questions if you have some specific questions regarding how to register or navigating the platform. Rest assured that we're going to touch on those as well. So the stock market game is our flagship program within the SIFMA Foundation. It engages all participants across different grade levels in real world investing and personal finance. So participants manage a virtual $100,000 portfolio and have the opportunity to trade real stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs that are found on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. Our program is aligned to national and state academic standards. So there are a number of resources and academic materials that we provide all of our facilitators to help implement the stock market game in your respective area, and we are aligned to those standards. We are accessible to grades 4 through 12, post-secondary students, and adult learners. One of the main cornerstone missions of our program is to ensure that everyone has access. So we're uniquely positioned in that we're completely online, so you can access us as long as you have access to the internet. You can utilize the stock market game and access our resources. And we're not limited solely to the classroom environment or the traditional classroom. So whether you are a homeschool teacher, you're considering the stock market game as a club or other enrichment activity, to utilize it with a nonprofit organization, a religious organization, or perhaps even with your children at home, or yourself as an individual, you would like to learn a little bit more about investing, the stock market game has a place for you. And of course, one of the bigger promotions for our program is that we're offered at no to low cost across most areas throughout the country and internationally. And we are happy to know that we are building critical skills in math, economics, teamwork, and decision making. So in terms of how the stock market game works, functions, and how you can get started, we offer multiple game windows each semester and academic year in order to fit varied schedules. So the stock market game works through there are sessions that are available in the fall, there are sessions available in the spring semester, or throughout the entire academic year. We also have summer sessions that are available as well. And we have a number of, you might see drop-in sessions, which are our newly engaged sessions, which allows you the most flexibility throughout the entire year, irrespective of how much time you have. We provide free webinars and training sessions to help onboard all of our users to not just the platform and how the program works and how to engage students, but we also want to make sure that you're advancing your own understanding of these financial instruments. And we have a number of webinars specifically dedicated to that as well. SMG is app and web-based, making it easy to integrate into any learning environment. Everything begins at stockmarketgame.org for registration. Post-registration, you will receive a unique login credentials for both you and your students via email. And you don't need to register all of your students at once. We actually do not collect any student information. Your singular registration as a teacher or other adult advisor is all that you need per game session. Registration takes about 5 minutes or less. You only need your own credentials and email address that is working, because that's where you will receive all of your login information so that you can access our platform, and that is all. Now, students can operate and work within the stock market game by they can work individually and manage their own portfolio, or in groups of 2 to 5, with each group sharing a portfolio. It's up to you regarding which pathway you believe will work best for you and your students. And you'll be able to deliver a robust, standards aligned curriculum that with ready to use lesson plans. We have a number of student activities and worksheets and interactive videos available at your discretion, not just for you as a teacher advisor, but a number of our tools are also directly available to students from their portfolio. So stockmarketgame.org is your one-stop shop for finding out more information, registering for a game session, connecting with your local stock market game coordinator, accessing resources, and of course, your stock market game portfolios. Now, both you and your students can also access stock market game portfolios via the stock market game app, which is available on both Apple and the Google Play stores. Just to note that our app is specifically for portfolio use only in order to access the length and breadth of our robust teacher support center that is only available via web browser. So what everyone always asks, how do you kick things off with students and introduce stocks when you've never talked about it before? It may seem like a daunting topic, and irrespective of grade level, we're always suggesting that you start with what they know. It doesn't have to begin at a far-reaching topic or something that's really daunting to talk about things that are unassuming. But let's talk about students, but let's name some of the products and services that they use every single day and created by companies where they can become a part owner or invest in. Ask if they recognize logos such as those you see or others. This will help students to consider how they might identify prospective stocks. You want to ask students for examples of the products that they buy and try to help them connect the product to its parent company, such as Taco Bell and Baskin Robbins is connected to Yum Brands. Tropicana, they may be drinking that orange juice every day, linked to PepsiCo. And then thinking about even their ride to school, were their parents or the adults if they drove them, did they take the bus? What companies did you pass on your way? Did your parents stop to get coffee? Did they take out money from the ATM? Did they grab breakfast? Where? And then what are those companies? And explaining that they can then buy shares in any of these companies and many others that are available on stock exchanges. And then some other things to think about is discussing how the average person might choose companies to invest in. We want to consider what the company sells. Do people want it or do they need it? And discuss some companies that make staples or necessities like paper towels, soap, toothpaste. People need these items every day, regardless of the time of year or their financial circumstances. So there's an opportunity to discuss companies also that make products that people want. So if there's a particular car brand, if there is something that they desire. So it may not always be the things that they need. Maybe it's the products that they really want. If there's a new iPhone coming out that they're interested in, we can talk about that. Well, who makes iPhone? Apple. Let's talk about that. And then also thinking about a company's competitors. And then students can find this information not only directly on the stock market game portfolio, but if preferred, you can also utilize additional financial service sites like Yahoo or Google Finance. You'd also want to make sure that the students understand what a ticker symbol is. So a ticker symbol is a set of letters that are used to identify a publicly traded company on stock exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, which are the two exchanges that are utilized within the stock market game. So a ticker symbol can be as short as one letter or as long as five. So for example, we have Apple. Their ticker symbol is AAPL. And then you have others like AT&T, where their ticker symbol is simply T. So ticker symbols are an important foundation for your students to know before kicking off the stock market game, because they are used within the stock market game to enter those trades within the portfolio. Once you've had the opportunity to lay that foundation and build that organic conversation around products and services that they use every day and matching that particular product or service to a company, now it's time for them to log in and introduce themselves to the stock market game platform, where they are striving to create the best performing and diversified portfolio of $100,000 with real stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So they'll be able to follow the market to see how companies are performing over a set period of time. That set period of time is based on the game session in which you participate. So it can be anywhere from about 10 to 15 weeks or throughout the entire academic year, which can range from anywhere from 32 to 36 weeks. There's no right time to join in. You can feel free to participate in the game window that best meets your particular dates. And your first step after registration, is to logging in to access both the portfolio and resources at stockmarketgame.org. And when bringing this to your students, you want them to start thinking of companies that they think would be a great investment, based on questions like, do people want or need their products? Is the company making money? And who are their competitors? And in order to help your students figure that out, we of course want to support our teachers. So our online teacher support center that you will receive access to post-registration provides you with all of the details that you need in order to bring this to your students. There is curriculum, and there are multiple pathways. So we have a number of mini lesson videos that help outline some of the core topics as introductory as what is a company, all the way through all of the different assets that we provide you in the stock market game, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and walk all of our users through each of them, as well as doing a deeper dive into things like asset allocation, what causes stock prices to change, and more. So those are meant to be facilitated. And we also have a new self-guided option where if you're working independently, perhaps you are intending to utilize the stock market game with a club or group, you can follow our self-guided videos and program guide that will help to build out the stock market game for those who are going to utilize it a bit more independently. But to help you better understand and know how to navigate the platform, I'm actually going to walk you all through both the Teacher Support Center and the portfolio. So stockmarketgame.org is the homepage, and it's where I am logged in right now. This is where you can register if you haven't already. Once you register, you'll receive your unique alphanumeric login credentials. If you're registering as an advisor, and really an advisor is anyone who intends to facilitate the program with at least one person or group. So that's whether you're a parent, whether you're homeschool, whether you're doing this as a club. If it will be utilized among many people, you're going to select Teach SMG during your registration process. You'll then receive your login credentials via email, and that's where you will begin to log in. So you'll receive two sets of login credentials. If you are a teacher or other facilitator, you'll receive login credentials that begin with either your state. So if you're New York, it'll say NY. If you're Colorado, for example, it'll say CO, so on and so forth. You'll see a middle set of numbers here that typically correspond to a particular game session. And you'll know it's your teacher or other adult advisor credentials because it should start with the letter T. Those are going to be the credentials that give you access to our online teacher support center. Your username is not changeable because it's so specific and unique to you and your login, but you can change your password. From there, you will simply log in. And this immediately brings you to the Teacher Support Center. This is where you will have the opportunity to view your team portfolios. You'll have access to those so you can track them, when they've participated, their last trade date, their particular ranking, and you'll see that directly from the View Team Portfolios page. So if you have it here, if I have multiple classes, all of your classes would show up on this page. I'll know the number of teams I have per class, their specific team ID or username. If I created nicknames, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, I'll be able to see that here. Their last trade date, or if they haven't traded at all, it'll say unplayed, their ranking, their current equity, and their passwords will be listed as well. If you are interested in changing your students' nicknames, that is absolutely possible. Nicknames help to identify you or help identify your students to you and make it a little easier to navigate so you know which portfolios or belong to whom. You'd simply click on the class name. This will populate an additional pop-up where you'll have the opportunity to enter nicknames, and then you simply enter the nicknames and click update and you're all set, and they will populate here. This is also where you'll be able to see your particular game session start and end dates are also listed on this page. Just showing you our start here. So if you're introducing yourself to the stock market game for the very first time, I always encourage all of our users to peruse our homepage. It's literally called Start Here because we want you to start here. It provides you an overview of those usernames and passwords, how to access them, how to segment your team should you decide to work in teams. We prioritize some tools for teachers that can be helpful, some tools for students, and an overview of the rules. Our events calendar is also really helpful for everyone. This is where you can find a number of different opportunities, both our webinars that happen weekly across a variety of topics all throughout the semester. You'll also be able to find our stock market game office hours and when they're available, and any other highlights that are related to the stock market game. You can find out additional dates, the timelines. If it requires a registration, that link will also be embedded directly. If there's a particular topic that you're interested in, you'll also be able to access those there. Most of the webinars that can be found on this page are primarily geared for our advisors. That's why it's listed in the Teacher Support Center portion. If there are ever any student-facing webinars, we'll highlight those for you as well. And you'll also receive a particular an email that notes just that. Our SMG syllabus, and that is perfect for all of our stock market game advisors that intend to utilize this in a class or any type of structured setting, and that we've kind of taken the guesswork out of it for you. So we've completely outlined how to structure your stock market game experience All of it includes a mini lesson video where it takes a core investing topic and puts it in bite-sized, like 3 to 6 minute video to help explain what that means. It comes with a corresponding activity to help to reinforce the learning of that particular video, and a breakout and discussion opportunity. So a number of these topics will also come up organically, but if you need help to structure them out and also pace it and see what flow, we've kind of already done that work for you, including finding the appropriate activities. For all additional videos, we have our video section where we highlighted our videos that are most utilized by our users. So we wanted to make it a lot easier for everyone to find. So if you just simply click on videos, you'll have complete access to our our SMG Essential mini lesson videos that are anywhere from 3 to about 6 minutes long and introduce a number of core topics. Our mini lesson videos tend to work specifically and are in a tone that's meant to be within a classroom experience. Then we have our SMG training videos. So if you are interested in learning how to navigate the portfolio, how to conduct research, make specific types of trades within the stock market game, or how to get started, you can find those videos under SMG training. And then our self-guided video series. Those are for those who may be utilizing the stock market game independently on their own, or perhaps you are sharing this with a group that will utilize SMG a bit more independently. So that can include our stock market game clubs and more. Of course, as mentioned, you can change your password for your Teacher Support Center access. You cannot change the username, but should you decide to change your password, you can do so via the left panel. One of the things I wanted to also highlight while I'm still here, when you are tracking your student portfolios or you need to view their information, including their username and password, if you want to see their last trade date, if you need to look into their portfolio a bit more in depthly, you want to see how their particular portfolio is performing, these links here are live links. You can click on them to be able, and it'll bring you directly to that portfolio. So you're not only able to have a bird's eye view of how your student's portfolio is performing, but you're also able to go more in depthly as well. Should you need to troubleshoot any issues, walk them through something, or a number of teachers sometimes set their own parameters and expectations of what needs to be done within their portfolio. So you'll be able to look into that specifically. And from there, I'm going to log out of the Teacher Support Center. I'll bring you guys back to, I'll start from scratch just in case anyone wasn't here. So stockmarketgame.org. If I wanted, now I'm going to log in as though I am one of your students. Okay. So as a student logins are similar in that they all have, it'll start with your state, all of that criteria. Long underscores, usernames are case sensitive, so you will have to enter them as is and include all characters, even underscores. But you'll know the difference between a portfolio login versus the Teacher Resource Center login, and that the first letters in the front will either be a Z, Z, or an A, but likely a Z, Z. They'd enter that and their password. And once they log in, they are immediately brought to their stock market game portfolio. So their portfolio gives them the opportunity to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. At any point, they can utilize and log into their portfolio at any time. Again, it's available both via web browser or the stock market game app and has a similar experience. One doesn't provide more detail than the other. It's just really a matter of preference and accessibility. Right up front, they will see what I call the top four, their total equity. This is a particular portfolio that I've been using, so over and over, so you'll notice some changes. All portfolios begin with a virtual cash balance of $100,000 and buying power of about $150,000, depending on location. if you have a margin that's accessible. So what that typically means is that you have $100,000 in cash, and then in most locations, you also receive automatically $50,000 of margin that's allowed for the portfolio. As you begin making transactions, you'll see a portfolio summary that allows you to see how your portfolio is developing from 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, all the way potentially through 1 year, depending on the position that you hold. Students can also do their research directly from the portfolio page. You're more than welcome to utilize additional financial news sites such as Google Finance, Yahoo Finance, but our research section mirrors a lot of the same information that you would want to find out there. So for example, if I were interested in, Apple pops up, in Apple, for example, I can simply look for Apple, that particular company, and it will provide me with the current price, an overview of said company. I'm able to also see specific charts regarding their pricing from 1 day all the way through the last 5 years and see how it's been progressing. It will also provide additional news related to that company, direct market news over the last few hours, where that particular company is mentioned. And should you scroll down further, you can find additional financial details of that company. So we want to make sure that the portfolio is something that's user-friendly, and we're always giving the opportunity to learn more as you go throughout. So you'll notice a number of the tools and that are hyperlinks to provide an additional description. So if you click on any of them, the definition of that particular term or area will populate, and you can even expand it should you want to learn more. This will also, if this is a dividend paying stock in any capacity, you'll also be able to see the amounts, and the different payment dates that are available. So I will actually scroll back up to show you very quickly how you or your students would make a trade. And making a trade is very simple. You'd simply select trade at the top, follow the prompts to enter a trade. You'd have the option to choose between stock, mutual fund, or bond trade. For the example of today's session, of course, I'm going to select the stock trade. Once you select that, you'll have the opportunity to enter that particular stock. Now, it is based on ticker symbol, so you'll need to know that ticker symbol, but it's completely okay if you're not sure, if you haven't had the opportunity to look that information yet, because you can also look it up by company name. If assuming this is your first transaction, it'll be a buy transaction. You must have a minimum of 10 shares. And then you're simply going to preview the trade. You will notice to the right here, you have another opportunity to see how that particular stock, that particular company is performing, and you receive some initial financial data, such as the closing price, the high, the low, market cap, etc. Once you're ready to make that transaction, you would select Preview Trade. This provides you with a summary of the order that you are about to make, just in case you need to make any last minute changes, or you put in 10, but you really meant to put in 100, or vice versa. It also lets you know what your buying power will be after you make that transaction. So in case you want to adjust your figure after, once you see what you would have available, you can feel free to do that. And if you need to make any edits, you'd simply go back to trade. From there, you would enter your password. This protects the integrity of that portfolio. So every single transaction will require entry of that password to ensure that it's only the users within that portfolio who hold that portfolio who can make transactions, no one else. From there, you're simply you're just clicking confirm, it'll process. This one, I've made a number of transactions across users and have exhausted my cash balance and buying power. So I do not have enough buying power to make that particular transaction. And actually, it's a perfect way to see, like, you see how it comes up in red. That is perfect. If there are ever any errors, it will come up in red and you'll see it live and direct, and it'll tell you why. So you cannot miss anything. But typically any transaction that is placed will process, and it'll process immediately if it's placed during market hours, which is 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So any transaction that's placed during that time, you can also confirm it at any point via the trade tab, and you go to transaction notes. So this trade tab, I always say anything related to a trade, you can find the information via the trade tab. So you go to transaction notes, and this will list all of the transactions that you've placed in any capacity. It'll let you know the type it was, the ticker symbol, and if there were any errors, it'll list that as well. So this is always helpful, especially as you're going through, or if this is a class that perhaps doesn't meet every day, maybe you meet weekly, it might be possible for a student to forget a transaction that they've made. So this is a good opportunity for them to view that. Now, pending orders will include any transactions that were placed outside of market hours. So you and your students can access the portfolio at any time. You can also make transactions at any time. However, any trades that are made when the market is closed will go into a pending status. You can place it, it'll be found here. There's nothing else that you need to do. It'll simply roll right into transaction notes and process automatically once the market opens again. But if you ever want to go back and see which transactions that you've made while it was closed, it'll be in pending orders. So tomorrow we are going to focus on mutual funds and how they function in the overall landscape, and also how to introduce mutual funds to your particular students. And then we will follow that up with bonds. If you haven't already, make sure to register for a stock market game session. It's available in the fall, the spring, or the year-long sessions are available. You can also participate in a number of stock market game webinars, even beyond this week, and you can have that available through our stock market game calendar, which I will also reshare to all of the attendees today. But you can also find that within the Teacher Support Center. And of course, if you have any additional questions, I always encourage you to reach out to us. We are happy to help guide your conversation, answer specific things, brainstorm with you. There are a number of opportunities. You connect with us at SMG at SIFMA.org, and we can also connect you with your local stock market game coordinator. Every single state has one. And if you love the stock market game, if you're a returning teacher or participant, of course, we would love for you to share how much you love SMG and how you're utilizing it with your colleagues, so that you can bring it to your school or district. I cannot thank all of you enough for participating, and a special thanks to all of our guests today. And thanks to Kim from Ed Jones for sharing her expertise and her knowledge on stocks. And I hope that everyone was a bit more informed for it. So thank you so much.